Hello, Year 4. Today, our learning objective is to convert between units of time. So, different units of time are different ways that you measure how long something takes. You could measure a car journey in seconds, minutes, or hours. And obviously, some things are more appropriate. For example, if we were doing a 100-meter race, we would measure that using seconds. Because I think Usain Bolt, his record is 9 point something seconds for a 100-meter race. If we're measuring how long it takes us to drive to school, we'd probably do that in minutes, unless we live right next to the school. And if we're going on a really long car journey, maybe an aeroplane, then we'd measure that using hours. So seconds, minutes, and hours are different units of time. And today we're going to look at converting between those units of time. So these are two things that we should know off by heart that we don't even need to think about. There are 60 seconds in a minute and there are 60 minutes in an hour. And you can use that information to find out more. For example, you might want to know how many seconds are in 5 minutes. Now, what's going to help you today is your 6 times table. And I'm going to show you why now. If you write down your multiples of 6, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and let's stop at 36. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 0 on every single one. So that becomes 60, 120, 180, 240, 300, and then 360. Now I can use that information to find out how many seconds are in 3 minutes. So if I just label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, these can either now be my minutes or my hours. For example, I could say, well, it's really annoying that box being there. Go away, box. I'll write it out instead. So I could say that I could use information to find out how many seconds there are in 2 minutes. For example, there are 120 seconds in 2 minutes. There are 240 seconds in 4 minutes. I could also use it to convert between minutes and hours. I know there are 240 seconds in 4 minutes, but there are also 240 minutes in 4 hours. So if I had to draw a bar model to represent that, here are my hours. So 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, and 1 hour. And then there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So therefore, there are 240 altogether. And it doesn't matter, you can use this to convert between seconds and minutes or minutes and hours because they are both 60. So I would recommend, strongly recommend, actually drawing this on a piece of paper today or having it at the top of your piece of paper and having something like this handy because it will make the maths today much, much easier. An example question today might be, how many minutes are in 9 hours? So again, you could draw out all your multiples of 6 like I just did until you get to 9. Or you could do something a little bit quicker. And this is for those children that are really confident with their times tables. So you're looking for how many minutes are in 9 hours. Well, if you know that 60 minutes, I'm just going to put a little m there so I don't get confused, equals 1 hour. You're looking for 9 hours. So what you can do is this. If you need to multiply it by 9, you can multiply 60 by 9. And you know what 60 times 9 is if you know what 6 times 9 is. 6 times 9 is 54. So 60 times 9 is 540. So how many minutes are in 9 hours? There are 540 minutes in 9 hours. So use your knowledge of the 6 times tables today. Another example question might be, how many seconds are in 70 minutes? So again, you always start off with what you know. And you know that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So how many are there in 70 minutes? So what you're going to have to do here, because it's 70 times bigger, 70 minutes is 70 times longer than 1 minute, you're going to have to multiply 60 by 70. And that's a huge calculation, but you can make it easier for yourself. So just down here, I'm going to write 6 times 7. And again, for those of you that are fantastic at your times tables, you will know that the answer is, it's my little drum roll, 42. However, we're doing 60 times 70. So let's make the 6 10 times bigger, which means our answer needs to be 10 times bigger. But we also need to make the 7 10 times bigger because we're multiplying by 70. So now we need to make our answer 10 times bigger again. So the answer here would be 4,200 seconds are in 70 minutes. And I suppose if you're really bored, you could check and count up for an hour and 10 minutes. But an easier way is to trust your maths. So there, I used my knowledge of 6 times 7. And then what I did, because my 6 was 10 times bigger, I added a 0. And my 7 was 10 times bigger, so I added another 0. So you can see I've got 2 zeros here. So I had 2 zeros in my answer. Another example of a question that you might get today is, how many hours are there in 9 days? So we've not talked about that. So 1 day is the Earth making 1 rotation all the way around. And for the Earth to spin all the way around once, it takes approximately 24 hours. Oops. So let's just add that here. So 24 hours equals 1 day. That's how long it takes for the Earth to spin round once. So how many hours are there in a day? Well, let's say that 24 hours equals 1 day. So I'm just going to put a little h there and a little d here so I don't get confused. And we want to find out how many hours there are in 9 days. I'm going to write days just to make it really obvious. So what I've done there is I've made my length of time 9 times bigger. So what I would need to do here is make 24 9 times bigger. In other words, 24 times 9. So if you can't do that mentally, you could work it out by doing your column method. So we've got 24 times 9. 4 times 9, 9, 18, 27, 36. And then 2 tens times 9 is 108. 80, and I need to add my 3 tens. To make that easier, I do 2 times 9 is 18. So 2 tens times 9 is 18 tens. Add my 3 tens. 18 add 3 is 21. So altogether, there are 216 hours in 9 days. So all your challenges today involve converting between different units of time. So what you'll need to do when you move on to challenge 3, when you've got problems to solve, is to make sure that you convert everything to the same. You might convert them all to minutes, or you might decide to convert them all to seconds, but you'll have to make sure that your units of measurement are all the same. I strongly recommend having this written down somewhere, and maybe having your 6 times tables written down somewhere to make the maths much easier for you today. And before you go, because I love space, and we're talking about a day. So a day is where planet Earth rotates once. Now, what I've just found is how long one day is on the other planets. So for the Earth to rotate around once, it takes 24 hours. Mars is pretty close. So Earth and Mars kind of spin or rotate around about the same speed. Jupiter is twice as fast as Earth. If you look at Venus, for Venus to turn around once, it takes 5,832 hours. Now, your extension challenge today, if you do everything, is to work out how many days it takes for Venus to do one rotation. Because 1 day on Venus is 5,832 hours, which is crazy. It must spin very, very, very slowly. So your extension challenge is how many days is 5,832? Good luck.